7 spine-chilling vacation tales. Discover the sinister hauntings and cursed adventures abroad. The Midwest was supposed to be a getaway. Quiet days, laughter, and rekindling family bonds, all of that after the mess of a divorce. But as Sarah pulled into Pine Hollow, a chill snaked down her spine that the glossy brochures hadn't prepared her for. The townsfolk waved cheerfully, but their smiles felt more like grimaces. The vibrant facades of old buildings dripped with shadow, and the wind whispered secrets. She had hoped for healing, yet unease crept in, dark and unsettling. The cottage they rented was beautiful, an antique charm with crooked shutters and an inviting porch cloaked in wild flowers. But inside, the floors creaked ominously, and a heavy silence blanketed the space, pressing down on her. Sarah tried to shake off the feeling, putting on a brave face for Lily and Max. But as dusk descended, a shadow of dread settled in her heart. From the moment they met the innkeeper, a frail woman with sunken eyes, Sarah sensed something was amiss. "You must be careful in these woods," she croaked, her voice trembling like leaves disturbed by a sudden gust. She spun tales of families gone missing, gnawing at the edges of Sarah's protective instincts. What were these rituals she mentioned, aimed at appeasing the spirits of the forest? A knot twisted in Sarah's stomach. Her heart raced. Were they safe? That night, strange noises dragged Sarah from sleep. A rustling outside mingled with shuffling whispers. Unable to dismiss it as mere imagination, she glanced at Max, who looked equal parts brave and terrified. "Mom, did you hear that?" he whispered, the tremor in his voice slicing through the night. A fleeting shadow passed by their window, making Lily gasp. Her wide eyes glistened with fright. Panic fractured Sarah's resolve. With a shuddering breath, she peeked outside, finding nothing but darkness. No moonlight broke the shroud. It felt like the world itself had hushed, waiting to reveal something sinister. The next day spiraled into dread. Unpacking, Sarah stumbled upon an old journal wedged in the floorboard. This weight in her hand felt wrong. Dark scribbles invaded her thoughts, detailing rituals and oaths. Blood sacrifices. It mirrored the innkeeper's tales. The family that vanished had appeared in late entries, their fate's ink run dry. A shiver clawed at her spine. Had they been sacrificed? Tension tightened like a noose as the locals grew watchful. Their eyes darted in her direction, whispers louder than the wind. Each smile dripped with something unwholesome. Panic was growing, her safe, unnoticed world fading. Strangely, Max grew more whimsical, telling stories of friends from the woods, keeping secrets of their OW. As night fell, Sarah overheard terrified murmurs from the neighbors. They knew something, a truth buried beneath Pine Hollow's idyllic surface. A truth that had haunted families for generations, unleashed just outside their doorstep. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The siblings were slipping away. Lily murmured about shadows creeping into her dreams, and Max laughed eerily, taunting the darkness. Sarah felt the fabric of their bond unraveling, replaced by something ancient and wicked, lurking just out of sight. As shadows thickened and terror took root, a confrontation loomed. Had the village claimed another family, or could she fight back against the pull of those cursed woods? In that moment of haunting clarity, she knew she must protect her children. But from who? Her heart thudded, dread coiling tighter around. Hope. They had come searching for solace, but Pine Hollow might hold onto their souls, fighting tooth and nail to keep them forever trapped in its chilling embrace. What had they stumbled upon, and was escape even possible? The house felt suffocating, the air thick with the scent of damp wood and lingering dread. As the night closed in, Sarah sensed more than just fear creeping through the corners. She felt the very pulse of Pine Hollow throbbing in tune with the sinister woods beyond their door. Max had drifted into an odd reverie, his face alight with a mischievous glow, telling stories only he seemed to understand. "They want to play with us, Mom," he chirped, wide-eyed. Lily buried her face into the pillow like it could shield her from whatever haunted the dark. "Max, you need to stop," Sarah snapped, her voice sharp as glass. She hesitated, glancing out the window again. The shadows swayed, dancing, beckoning. What were they inviting him to? A scratching sound suddenly echoed from the back of the house, a distant scuffle, like something dragging along the ground. Sarah's heart raced, a wild drum in her chest. She tiptoed towards the noise, holding her breath against the hush of apprehension that filled the air. "Mom, don't," Lily warned, her voice quavering. But Sarah silenced her with a gesture, feeling a magnetic pull urging her forward. She opened the door and stepped outside, the wooden boards creaking under her weight, echoing her rising fear. The moon finally broke through the thick clouds, illuminating the yard in a ghostly glow. Every shadow seemed alive now, pulsating with a life of its own. The trees whispered secrets, a language Sarah didn't understand. She stepped cautiously towards the sound, her pulse thrumming in her ears. Suddenly, the whispering stopped. Breath caught in her throat, then silence. It hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Her eyes darted to the woods. Had something moved, or was it just her imagination? The underbrush seemed to ripple like a heartbeat. "Max," she called, panic flooding her voice. But all she could hear was the rustling of leaves and shadowy figures darting just beyond her vision. She turned back toward the cottage, a sick feeling pooling in her stomach. Shadows spilled from the trees like spilled ink, creeping towards the light. "Mom, look," Max shouted, running toward what appeared to be a small stone altar hidden beneath an ancient oak tree. It was covered in dirt, but the faint trace of old, dried blood was evident. Unnatural symbols were carved into the stones, glowing just faintly under the moonlight. "Get away from there," she yelled, and her heart plummeted when she saw him bending over the stones, his eyes wide, transfixed. Lily darted after him, her eyes filled with fear. "Mom, it's beautiful," Max exclaimed. They said it's for us." That twisted voice rang in Sarah's head. No, it wasn't right. Inside her, a sleeper awoke, a primal force clawing at her from within. "No," she roared, racing toward them, the pull of the woods fighting against her. Just then, the ground beneath them began to tremble, a low rumble that echoed through the roots of the trees. "They want to take us," Lily screamed, pulling at Max, tugging him away from the altar. But something unseen exchanged its presence with them. Shadows crawled forth, beckoning. "Mom!" Max's eyes glimmered with a strange fervor. Then he grinned, just a little too wide. "They like me." "Max, stop!" Sarah shouted, desperation flooding her voice. But then came the darkness. Everywhere she looked, it seeped in, slinking from the trees like liquid night. Sarah's body froze and dread pooled deeper. The woods called to her children, and the inexplicable bond they shared with whatever lurked in those shadows felt thicker than blood. Trapped between love and fear, her thoughts collided within her. Could she really pull them away? With every ounce of will, she yanked Max back, her nails digging into his arm. She had to hold on to him. The brightness, the innocence. It could all slip away. Run. But the shadows swarmed, swirling around them like thick fog. They seemed to merge with the night, and as the world vanished into the darkness, a chill whispered through her mind, a single haunting thought coursed through her veins. What if they were already too late? What had taken root in her children's hearts? As she stumbled back toward the cottage, the swell of panic erupted. Was Pine Hollow alive? Hungry for more? Would they, like so many before, be dragged into its grasp? The very thought made her legs tremble. And just before the door slammed shut behind them, Sarah swore she heard laughter, giddy, joyful. Where were her children now? The last remnants of the fading light swallowed the night whole, and with it, every promise of safety. The door slammed behind them, the heavy thud ricocheting through the stillness. Sarah leaned against it, her breath coming fast, her heart a captive of dread. Did she lock them out or herself in? The air inside felt thinner, as if the walls, once her sanctuary, were now closing in. "Mom, what was that?" Lily's voice trembled, echoing the panic surging in Sarah. The little girl clutched Max, who appeared dazed, enthralled by something unseen. "Max, are you okay?" Sarah knelt before him, the starkness of her son's expression sending chills racing down her spine. "I don't know, Mom," he mumbled, staring into a distance filled with darkness. "They're still here." A shiver passed over him, his breath hitching. Sarah's gaze flickered toward the shadowed window. The trees outside loomed like sentinels watching, waiting. She grabbed Max's shoulders, her fingers digging in, willing him back to reality. "We have to stay close, no matter what. Understand?" "Mom, it's just a game," he replied, his tone eerily cheerful despite the gravity of the moment. Max's smile was unsettling, reminiscent of the glee children feel just before the lights go out. Lily whimpered, eyes wide and darting around. "I don't like this place." The whispers. She buried her face into her brother's side, trembling. "Trust me," Sarah whispered, swallowing her own fear. "We have to find a way to leave." The instinct to protect her children spurred her into action. She pulled them closer, ushering them into the main room. The house felt cold, the chill gnawing at her. It wasn't just the autumn night, it was as if something deep within Pine Hollow exhaled breathless whispers of dread. Shadows in the corners seemed to pulse with unseen vitality, ready to spring forth. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the back of the cottage, a shattering sound like glass. Sarah felt a jolt, every fiber in her body telling her to run. "Stay here," she commanded, a stern whisper as she moved toward the source. Adrenaline surged through her veins, muscles tightening, every instinct focused on danger. The kitchen lay in disorder. Cabinet doors swung open, dishes scattered across the floor, unmistakably violated. "What happened here?" she muttered, backing away slowly. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded animal, rattling the window panes. She turned just in time to see Max and Lily venture closer to the doorway. "Mom, come look." They pulled her toward the window. From their vantage point, the woods had transformed. Shadows seemed thicker, swirling with a life of their own, joining forces to form grotesque shapes that twirled and crashed like a macabre ballet. And then, just within the edge of the trees, Sarah caught a glimpse of figure, tall and narrow, its form obscured by darkness. Its face was indecipherable, but the sense of awareness it exuded bore into her soul. Was it watching them? The scratching noise returned, louder now, more insistent. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It felt like a harbinger of unearthing ancient terror buried beneath their temporary home. "Mom, they're calling for us." Max's voice came from a distance. His expression was serene, almost entranced. "No." Sarah's heart pounded. Was there truly a call from the darkness? Or worse, was her boy willingly succumbing to whatever sinister influence lingered? Before she could grab them, a gust of wind burst through the door, freezing her in place. The hallway behind her darkened, shadows licking toward her feet. "Run!" she screamed, but the voice fell flat against the sucking darkness that filled the room. She grabbed both children, yanking them back, but they giggled, completely entranced, looking past her as if she were merely a passing shadow. In that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't just fighting to protect them. Whatever had taken root in Pine Hollow was already claiming them. As the walls whispered closer, in a voice that wasn't quite human, Sarah felt her grip slip, like sand through tightly clenched fingers. "Mom!" Lily's bottom lip trembled, as she started to step forward. "Stay with me," Sarah howled, panic rising like bile in her throat. But this time, the laughter echoed louder, a siren song, drawing them closer to the threshold of night. What was there waiting? Time slipped away as the laughter mingled with the wind, and Sarah realized Pine Hollow wasn't just alive. It was hungry, and it wanted her children. In the lingering shadows, the figure emerged, its gaze meeting hers, a promise of terror and enticement all at once. What would she do to keep them safe? The question sliced through her as the door creaked ominously behind her. Was escape even an option now? The darkness enveloped Sarah and her children, an insatiable presence pressing in from all directions. The violent wind howled, carrying with it a cacophony of whispers that seemed to force their way through the cracks of the old, worn timber. Sarah's heart raced, thoughts colliding in her head. Max and Lily were drawn toward the shadow, their laughter a haunting blend of innocence and terror. "Get back!" Sarah shouted, her voice sharper than the howl of the wind. She peered into the shadows, desperate for clarity, desperate to identify the monster lurking within. The figure seemed to pulse, almost breathing, as if it drew strength from the fear radiating from her. Max tugged at her hand, his grip soft but insistent. "Mom, it wants us to play. This wasn't a game." Sarah shook her head violently. "No, it's not playing. We have to go now." She yanked them both to her, feeling the heaviness of dread weighing down on her chest. Still, the children giggled, as if caught in a fog of enchantment, oblivious to the danger painting their world with shadows. "It's fun. We can see," Lily insisted. Her finger pointed out the window as if she would leap into the swirling darkness if only given a moment's chance. "No." Panic coursed through Sarah. What was happening to them? The sensation clawed at her insides, a dark blend of fear and desperation. She had to break this spell. "You both need to listen to me. We need to find a way out." Suddenly the scratching noise grew louder, echoing along the walls like nails raking against bone. It gnawed at her like a swarm of insects, infesting every hollow inch of her mind. Sarah felt the corners of the room pushing in, suffocating her thoughts, the house itself becoming a living entity keep them forever bound. "Mom!" Max cried, his voice breaking through her fog of terror. He pointed toward the door, which had begun to quiver as if alive. Beyond it lay an abyss of darkness, a gradient of despair that threatened to swallow them whole. "I'm scared." Lily's voice shattered through the chaos, anchoring Sarah back to the moment, to the tangible fear of losing them. "Stay close," she screamed, conviction stirring within her. This was her moment to fight, not just for her children but for their very souls. When the wind howled again, a fracture split the door, a jagged crack that widened with each passing breath. Through the darkness, a pair of eyes emerged in the shadows, gleaming with a thirst that set the air aflame. "Mommy!" Max called, almost lovingly, as if invited to join. Terror rose higher now, hot against Sarah's skin. This was no longer the protective space of the cottage, it had become an arena of darkness, where every echo felt like an accusation, every rustle a threat. With a single glance, she understood. She couldn't fight this force head-on. It would consume her body and soul. "Run to the back," she shouted unexpectedly, the fierce instinct to survive overriding her fear. It was risky, but standing still meant surrender. With urgency, she herded them through the corridor, the shadows stretching hungrily behind them. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating, gripping her with a vice-like hold, forcing her to plunge deeper into the heart of Pine Hollow. From the back room, she felt a sliver of hope. A window, grime-caked and hard to see through, but a possible exit. She ushered the children toward it. "Hurry!" Just as they reached it, the figure surged forward, blocking their escape, its form twisting as it solidified into something grotesque. "No!" Sarah shouted, panic clawing at her throat. An electrifying cold filled the room, wrapping around them like chains. Max pulled away from her grasp. "Mom, it's okay." Sarah's heart dropped, feeling an icy grip on her soul, as Max's eyes glazed over like a distant star. He stepped forward, a puppet lacking a master, drawn to the void. "Max, no!" Panic surged across her veins as she lunged forward, but it was too late. He crossed the threshold, and vanished. A scream ripped from Sarah's throat, primal and raw. Despair clawed at her heart. The shadows began to swirl, excited by the offering of a child, emboldened by their hunger. "Lily!" she cried, holding her close, breathing heavily. As the shadows stretched onto them, she knew they needed to escape Pine Hollow. But now, with Max gone, it was only a matter of time before they came for her next. "Stay with me," she urged, her voice straining against the chaos closing in. Outside, the night thickened, thickening even further. Their lives hung in balance as the unknown loomed closer, challenging her to make a fateful choice. What lay within that darkness? The once familiar cottage had become a gateway to hell, and it seemed the figure knew their next move. But then the laughter returned, more sinister than before, a cacophony of voices, beckoning all of Pine Hollow's prey, and it was hungry for revenge. Would she have the strength to fight it, or would darkness claim them all? The shadows loomed larger, tendrils reaching out as if they had their own will, wrapping around Sarah and Lily. Sarah's muscles tensed, adrenaline surging through her veins as she fought against the suffocating darkness. "We need to go now," she shouted, urgency snapping through her voice. With her heart pounding, she dragged Lily toward the back of the room. Each step felt heavy, as if they plodded through molasses, the very air thick with malice. Panic clawed at Sarah. Her thoughts raced. Where was Max? What was happening? She could feel the weight of the shadows around them, shifting, twisting, breathing. "Mommy, what about Max?" Lily's voice trembled, a small, breaking whisper echoing in the thick silence. Tears glittered in her wide, frightened eyes, a mirror of Sarah's own terror. Sarah pressed her lips together, fear tightening her throat. "We have to focus. Just hold on tight to me." Her voice quaked slightly, but she forced herself to sound resolute. Suddenly, a deafening crash erupted outside, scattering darkness like a burst of firecrackers. They flinched, startled. Sarah whipped her head to the window, eager to see what lay beyond. Thunder roared in the distance, bolts of lightning jagged against the sky, illuminating the forest in short bursts of light, revealing twisted branches that looked like claws reaching toward them. "What if it gets us?" Lily's soft voice cracked. Her small hand clutched Sarah's arm, squeezing tighter. "It won't," Sarah replied, though her own heart felt like it trembled in response to the storm brewing both outside and within those sinister walls. "We're getting out of here." But even as she spoke, the darkness flickered, almost pulsating with the tempest of her despair. The laughter grew, wrapping around them an eerie melody stitched from whispers, longings, and lost souls. It slithered into Sarah's ears, wrapping around her thoughts, promising they would never escape. "Mom!" Lily cried, pointing at the shadow edging closer to them, its eyes gleaming with malice and hunger. The teeth within the shadows now glinted like polished ivory, and it smiled, as if every inch of darkness bristled with glee. "Don't look at it," Sarah commanded, forcing Lily to turn away. "We have to move." She guided her daughter toward the kitchen, heart hammering, a cacophony of fright pounding against her ribcage. Each step echoed an urgent rhythm, but the shadows slithered behind them, spreading like ink on a blotter, intent on pulling them back. The kitchen door creaked ominously, and they rushed through, gripping tightly to the flickering remnants of hope. Sarah darted her eyes around, searching for anything that could help them escape. Her gaze landed on the old cellar door, a minor crack in the chaos, a possible refuge from the darkness that ensnared Pine Hollow. "We can hide in there," she exclaimed, pulling Lily toward the stairs leading down. "No, Mommy, it's dark." Lily's voice rose, a panicky edge in it that cut through the air. "Lily, please. We have no choice," Sarah insisted, her voice firm even as panic gnawed at her heart. The shadows hissed around them, a dark fog exhaling suffocating dread. Before they could reach the cellar door, the figure lunged again, its horrific face swirling into an amalgamation of lost souls, mouths dripping with longing, whispering in an eerie chorus as they edged closer. "Mom is here." With a surge of primal instinct, Sarah threw open the cellar door and pulled Lily down the steps, closing it behind them. They tumbled into dark silence, the musty scent of earth enveloping them. Heart racing, Sarah strained to listen. The silence enveloped her but was too quiet, too stifling. She could feel her breath quicken, every second feeling like a lifetime. What came next? Would the darkness follow? Suddenly, A loud thud sounded from above, a heavy impact that made the ground tremble beneath their feet. A low growl cut through the silence, vibrating in her bones. "Mommy!" Lily trembled, holding onto her tightly, their breaths mingling in the frigid air. In that moment, an epiphany washed over Sarah. They weren't safe down here. The house would hold them hostage no matter where they ran. But a flicker of light cut through the pitch blackness, a beam illuminating a small object on the ground. Could it be hope or another trap? As the shadows clawed impatiently above, daring them to emerge, Sarah knew she had to choose. Would she unravel whatever lay buried in the dark, or would she flee into the arms of the ever-hungry darkness? The choice weighed heavy on her soul, and outside, the storm roared, as if in agreement, its fury echoing her own heart as terror. What horror awaited them above? The cellar was dark, crushing in its silence. It felt like a tomb, not just the weight of the earth above, but the chilling presence of something else, something that lurked just beyond the world of light. Sarah knelt beside Lily, her heart racing, pulse pounding in her ears. "Mommy, I don't like it here," Lily whispered, her tiny voice quivering. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't let Lily see her fear, couldn't let the shadows sense her doubt. Just a minute," she murmured, gripping her daughter's shoulders. She needed to think. The beam of light danced across the ground, revealing a small object, a rusty key. Its surface mottled with dirt, but unmistakably a key. It was cold, and in its presence, dread washed over her. What door did it unlock? Was it a way out, or did it lead deeper into the darkness? Outside, the storm raged, thunder shattering the stillness in the cellar. Each blast reverberated like a warning. A shuddering breath erupted from Sarah's lips. She had to keep moving. "Lily," she began, "we need to find a way out." The footsteps above them fell silent, replaced by a heavy thudding. The house seemed to pulse as if it were alive, feeding on their dread. "Did you hear that?" Sarah asked, wide-eyed. Lily nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "What is it, Mommy?" "I don't know." Clenching the key in her hand, Sarah made her choice. They needed to face it. "We can't stay here. We have to find Max, and we have to do it now." She gripped Lily's hand and stood, leading her cautiously up the stairs. Each creak echoed ominously, leading to whispers that filled her head. Shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. Every time she looked, they scooted away, taunting her courage. As they reached the top, the door hung ajar, just a sliver allowing an oily, black mass to curl in like smoke. The smell was suffocating, a blend of rot and despair that clawed at her senses. Pressing her back against the cool wall, Sarah took a deep breath, plastering a brave front on her face. "Stay close," she instructed, both a reassurance and a warning. It was time to confront whatever darkness lay beyond that door. Pushing the door open fully, she stepped into the upstairs hallway. Every surface felt wrong, warped, resonating with an ugly energy that scraped against her resolve. The laughter from earlier echoed again, skittering up her spine, a dreadful symphony that filled the air with malignant pleasure. "Max!" Lily called suddenly, her voice piercing through the gloom. "Lily!" Sarah hissed, panic rising in her throat. "Don't!" But Lily had already started down the hall. "Mommy! He's in here." Just as Sarah's heart sank, she saw something emerge from the shadows at the end of the corridor, an indistinct shape, contorting slowly into the semblance of a figure. Something was wrong. The look in its eyes was empty, filled with a desperate hunger that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. "Lily, don't!" But it was too late. In a heartbeat, the figure lunged forward, a shadowy mass that swallowed the flickering light of the hallway. Sarah felt the air sucked from her lungs as dread washed over her. "Run!" Sarah cried, her scream tearing through her throat as she grabbed Lily's hand. They dashed down the corridor as the laughter crescendoed, growing louder, wrapping around them like a vice. At that moment, Sarah realized they were not just escaping the darkness. They were being hunted. As they turned a corner, they stumbled into a room with an old, ornate mirror against the wall. Glancing back, she caught a glimpse of the shadow slithering after them, a demon born of nightmares. The mirror pulsed ominously, reflecting their panic, a distorted image filled with forsaken hopes and washed-out colors of fear. There was no time to think. "Mommy, what do we do?" Lily's voice was smaller now, cracked with terror, grounding Sarah in that horrible moment of choice. Eye in the mirror. Something shifted behind them, twisting through the glass. It was a darkness not just hunting them. It was a reality they could not escape from. What would she do with nowhere left to run? Would the mirror hold the answers, or would it condemn them both? Time seemed to stretch like the shadows that crept closer. Sarah reached forward, heart pounding, and placed her trembling hand against the cold glass. The mirror felt alive, humming beneath her touch. Sarah's hand recoiled as a ripple of energy surged through her, a fierce chill spreading through her very bones. In that moment, the reflection shifted again. This time, she caught a glimpse of a flickering scene Max, by himself, his face frozen in panic as the shadows gathered around him. "Mommy, I see him!" Lily shouted, pointing at the glass, her small finger trembling. "Stay back," Sarah warned, instinct kicking in. Whatever that mirror was showing, it felt like a trap. The air thickened, drawing tight like a noose. The laughter echoed louder, now layered with wails that clawed at her sanity. Is he okay?" Lily's voice was a whimper, fear spilling out like a flood. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing an answer past her tightened throat. "I don't know. We need to find him. But if we go outside this room," she dared not finish. "Step outside, and the darkness would pull them in." The mirror pulsated again, faster now, as if it sensed their distress. Something in it was trying to get out, as if the very fabric of the glass itself was warping in a desperate attempt to break free. The shadows outside the room pressed tighter against the door, a low, growling hum that vibrated in Sarah's chest. "We can't be here," Sarah finally said, her voice a whisper of defiance against the gathering storm. "It wants us." Lily stepped closer, having no clue that the darkness hungered for her innocence. "What if we touch the mirror? Maybe it will take us to Max." "No," Sarah snapped, panic spilling over. "You don't know what's waiting for us on the other side." Yet, even as she said it, a grim thought crossed her mind. What if the mirror was their only hope? What if sinking into its depths was the only answer? Hope and desperation clashed furiously in her head. Suddenly, the light flickered, the bulb above them sputtering as the laughter escalated into a cacophony of horror. Through gritted teeth, Sarah gripped her daughter's arm. "When I say go, we run to the door and get out of here. No questions." But the very moment she turned to find a safe route, a gust of cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing the light. The shadows swallowed them whole. In the darkness, Sarah's heart raced as the laughter grew distinct, echoing all around them. "Mommy!" Lily's voice rang out, followed by an unnerving silence. "Hold my hand!" Sarah screamed, her throat raw. Lily squeezed her palm, her grip tight. They stood in silence, every second seeming to stretch into eternity, a breath between survival and surrender. The mirror darkened, revealing new shapes, twisted faces, and anguished expressions that clawed at Sarah's mind, pulling it toward despair. This was no ordinary glass. It was a portal to the nightmare that wanted to engulf them. "Don't look back," she warned, squeezing Lily's hand to keep her steady as they edged toward the door. The air felt heavy, thick like a pressing smoke, dragging her down, wanting to pull them back into the void. A sharp noise broke the silence, something scraping against the wall, searching for them. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lily whimpered, and Sarah felt her own resolve cracking. Just a little further. With one final push, she yanked the door open and they stumbled out onto the hallway, breathless desperation fueling their flight. Ahead lay a darkened echo of the corridor, a road they had to cross, and at its end, "Mommy, look out!" Something lunged from the shadows, a thrumming presence coiling to strike. The last thing Sarah saw was a flicker of a dark figure grinning from the depths before she turned to protect her daughter. "Run!" she yelled, pushing Lily ahead, but the darkness wrapped around her like a lover. Was this the end? Was the mirror merely a reflection of their deepest fears? Time was slipping away, and Sarah knew the darkness would rise to claim them both. As the world distorted around her, all she could think was that this might be the moment everything changed for better or for worse. Where did the choices they made lead to next? What awaited them on the other side of this unfathomable abyss? The corridor swallowed them whole, darkness curling around like creeping vines. Sarah fought against the weight of it, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Her mind raced with thoughts of Max, each panic-stricken breath pulling her further into despair. "Lily, keep running," she shouted, pushing herself forward, her body a blur of frantic movement. They raced past framed family photos, faces smiling that now seemed to twist and leer in the dark. A cold draft kissed Sarah's skin, prickling her nerves. The shadows pulsed and flickered, almost alive. She glanced behind her, eyes searching for the darkness that chased them. It coiled and slithered, chasing them like a relentless predator. "Faster, Mommy!" Lily's voice quivered, panic brewing in her words. Sarah felt her daughter's small hand start to slip from her grip, growing weaker under the weight of their terror. "I want to let you go," Sarah yelled, squeezing tighter. She needed to hold onto something, someone, anything that represented hope as every heartbeat drummed in time with the sinister laughter echoing off the walls. In the distance, they spotted a faint flicker of light, a promise of safety. Hope ignited in Sarah's chest, but it was brief and fragile. Her instincts screamed at her to not trust anything in this place. Yet what option did they have? The darkness was closing in. "Mommy, the light!" Lily pointed, eyes wide with a mixture of hope and fear. "Head towards it." "Move," Sarah urged, and they dashed forward in a desperate sprint. But then the ground trembled beneath them. A deep rumble echoed, shaking the very foundation of the house. It felt alive, writhing like a beast awakened from slumber. "Sarah!" A voice clawed through the chaos, familiar yet distorted. Sarah froze, moments twisting in uncertainty. Was it Max? Or another trick from the malevolence that thrived in the shadows? "Go!" The voice echoed again, sounded warped yet urgent. She felt it calling her, beckoning her away from the light. "Mommy, don't listen." Lily tugged at her arm, drawing her away from the beckoning shadows. But the call was intoxicating, a siren song that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. The mere thought of abandoning Max made her stomach churn. "Stay with me, Lily," she gasped, turning away, shaking her head to clear the haze urging her towards that voice. But the shadows thrashed wildly, swallowing the light they had aimed for. Sarah stumbled, the panic threatening to seize her completely. Time was slipping, crumbling like ash in her grasp. Then, it happened. The wall to her right gave way. A scream erupted as tendrils of darkness burst forth, reaching for them with sickened glee. Not this way. Sarah knew they had to find another route. "Over here," she yelled, grabbing Lily and sprinting towards a narrow passage that had appeared. They squeezed through, darkness brushing against them like icy fingers as they moved deeper into the unknown. When they emerged, they found themselves in a room, large and foreboding. Yet the air felt different here, charged with an energy that shimmered, almost tangible. In the center stood a table adorned with a vast array of candles, their flames flickering as if alive. "Is this safe?" Lily whispered, voice trembling. "They can't follow us here," Sarah breathed, but doubt clouded her mind. Was this just another trap? Shadows danced just beyond the doorway, restless and hungry. "What are we supposed to do?" Lily's tiny body trembled against her. "All we can do is wait and hope," Sarah replied, heart hammering. But she couldn't shake that sense of dread gnawing at the edges. Something wasn't right about this haven, as if it lulled them into a false sense of security. Outside, a whisper slithered through the shadows, growing louder. "You can't hide forever," as the words echoed in her mind. Sarah instinctively drew Lily closer. The feeling of dread settled in her gut like poison. The darkness would find them, of that she was certain. What if safety was just an illusion? What lay in store for them in the depths of this house? And what or who was truly waiting in the shadows? The flickering candles cast elongated shadows, creating the illusion of movement on the walls. Sarah tried to focus, to breathe, but the air was thick, almost oppressive. She scanned the room, desperate for anything that could guide them, a glimpse of salvation amid the suffocating darkness. "Mommy, I don't like it here." Lily's voice was a mere whisper, drowned out by the ominous silence that enveloped them. "I know," Sarah breathed, brushing a finger through her daughter's hair, searching for comfort and finding none. She felt exposed, like a moth drawn to the flame of dread that thrummed at the edges of the room. Suddenly, the shadows began to shift. Sarah squinted, squaring her shoulders. "What's happening?" she demanded softly, as if the mere act of speaking would attract something lurking just beyond the veil. The flames of the candles danced wildly, as if responding to unseen whispers. A low sound, a murmur, perhaps filtered through the cracks in her resolve. "Come to us." The voice was barely audible, yet it wrapped around her heart in a cold grip. "No," Sarah shouted, clenching Lily's shoulders. "We can't. We have to stay strong." But within her, uncertainty festered, gnawing at her thoughts. Did she truly have any control over their fate? As if to answer her silent doubt, one of the candles flared, illuminating an old, tarnished mirror hanging crookedly on the wall. It reflected the room but warped the image, distorting its edges into horrific shapes. Sarah stepped back, instinctively shielding Lily with her body. "Look," Lily gasped, pointing. The mirror showed figures behind them, dark and twisted sharply, moving in sync with them. Shadows shivered into form. They were their rounded edges morphing into faces. But these faces bore no semblance of humanity. They grinned with malevolent glee, eyes hollow and predatory. "Mommy, they're looking at us." Panic surged in Lily's voice, resonating in Sarah's core. She quickly stepped closer to the mirror, disbelieving her eyes. They weren't reflections. They were something far worse. "Turn away," she screamed, breaking the haunting connection. Breathing heavily, she forced herself to draw Lily back, but the shadows surged forward, pulsating with hunger. The whisper rose again, calling them to return. "Join us." "No." She closed her eyes tightly, clenching her fists until her nails bit into her palms. "We won't listen. We'll be okay." She felt foolish, struggling against the very darkness she had to confront. "Mommy, what do we do?" Lily's voice cracked. Sarah opened her eyes, desperation pushing her to act. "We need to find another way out. Get ready." She grabbed Lily's hand, anchoring herself in resolve. But the minute they turned, the room began to shift again. Walls warped, contracting as if the house were breathing. The candlelight flickered, casting grotesque forms that filled the corners, clawing for their attention. Then, a low growl rumbled from the depths of the shadows, echoing like an angry beast awakening. "You can't run forever." They bolted toward the narrow passage they had entered through, but now it loomed, barred by undulating darkness. Sarah yanked, but the air felt heavy, as if the walls themselves pushed back. "We won't make it," Lily cried, tugging on her mother's hand, her face paling. "This way." Sarah suddenly spotted another doorway on the opposite side, half hidden beneath swirling shadows. "Quick," she urged, dragging Lily along as fear fueled every ounce of her being. The growling intensified, reverberating off the walls, relentless and fierce. They bolted to the new door, trembling fingers grasping the handle, twisting it desperately. It opened with a shriek, revealing a dim spiral staircase descending into deeper darkness. Sarah exchanged a glance with Lily, both knowing there was no turning back. If this was a trap, they'd face it together. "We can't stop now," she said, leading Lily into the spiral, the growl morphing into a cacophony of laughter behind them. As they descended, the air grew colder, the laughter chasing, drawing nearer with every heartbeat. "What's down there, Mommy?" Lily whispered, fear vibrating through her small frame again. Sarah bit her lip, fighting the rising dread. "I don't know, but we have to find Max." In the dark, whatever lay ahead felt alive, waiting to ensnare them both. Was it more darkness? Or could there be a flicker of hope? And just how deep does the house go? The stairwell spiraled uncontrollably, dark and treacherous. The shadows writhed around them, the very air feeling heavy with unseen eyes, waiting, prowling. Sarah's heart raced. Every step felt like a descent into madness. She held Lily's small hand tightly as they turned the last corner, plunging into a cavernous hall. The low, pulsating hum of an ancient energy thrummed through the ground. Dim light flickered from strange symbols carved deep into stone, glinting like eyes in the dark. The energy felt both alluring and repulsive, a paradox that filled her with unease. "Stay close," Sarah urged, every sense alert, scanning for a clue, a sign, anything. Finally, at the end of the dimly lit hall, she spotted a door heavy, ancient, covered in markings like the altar Max had been drawn to. Her heart quickened. If this is where they keep him with urgency. She pushed the door open. Inside lay a striking sight. The chamber was wider than she anticipated, a thick mist coiling at the edges, swirling around two figures. One tall and slender, the other small and frail. A pulse of terror shot through her as recognition hit her gut like a punch. It was Max, standing transfixed, his tiny body framed against the darkness, while the tall figure loomed over him, whispering spoken promises that twisted through the air like smoke. "Max!" Sarah cried, but the sound was swallowed in the depths. Her voice a distant echo in the sinister chamber. Lily pressed against her side, heart pounding in synchronization with her mother's fear. "Mommy," Max murmured, his eyes unfocused yet luminous. "They want me." The shadows danced with delight at his words, flickering like firelight. "No!" Yanking Lily close, Sarah rushed forward. Her heart thundered in her chest. "We have to get him." Hope blended with desperation fueled her steps. Then came the figure's gaze, impenetrable, unyielding, locking onto her with icy precision. "You should have stayed away, Sarah." The voice dripped with malice, sending chills cascading down her spine. "Get away from my son," she shouted, forcing every ounce of strength into her voice. In a fleeting moment, she felt freedom mix with desperation. "Max!" She reached out, stretching her arm as if a bridge between them could form. The shadows shivered, and under the screams of the wind echoing through the hall, everything fell silent for a heartbeat. "Join them, Sarah," the tall figure said, its voice now a smoky murmur, curling into her thoughts. "Your pain, your fear, they are delicious. Imagine the power." Its smile twisted wider, an invitation coded in promises. "No!" Sarah screamed, but it was not just words. It was emotion, strength boiling over. "I won't leave you," she shouted, determined to shake off the ethereal grip of despair. "Mom, it's okay," Max whispered, eyes flickering in and out of clarity. "They like me." And there it was, the terrible understanding. The shadows liked him, not her. They valued innocence and played with the desolate like toys. "No, it isn't okay," she insisted, her breath quickening. Tears blurred her vision as panic clawed through her heart. With urgency, Sarah slammed her foot forward, ripping the shadow's hold. Then she felt it, a strong force pushing her back, but a flicker of resolve ignited in her chest. "Suit yourself, but this was never meant to end here." The tall figure's voice twisted through the air like a dagger, piercing her resolve. She steadied herself. "You will never escape what you owe. They will be ours." As if on cue, the shadows gathered, coiling around Max, drawing him further into their grasp. "Max!" she roared, willing the words to slice through the haze surrounding him. She felt defeated, but in that moment, one idea crystallized in her mind, a prayer she had whispered during every dark hour while searching for solace after the divorce. A call to the universe that maybe, just maybe, offered hope. "Max!" She lowered herself, her voice now a steady foundation for him. "You have to fight. You're stronger than them. Remember who you are." Finally, she charged in when she felt it, the faintest flicker of light blooming in Max's eyes. He hesitated. "Mommy." "Yes," she urged, heart racing like a freight train. "Take my hand." Desperation etched in her voice, every ounce of her being poured into that moment. An internal battle flickered behind his gaze, the shadows sliding away as they recoiled. He stepped toward her, inching closer to the warmth of stability, the familiar love that broke apart the cold fingers of despair. But then, the figure howled, reshaping itself into a monstrous visage, a mask forged from the very dark matter of the house. The shadows writhed, a storm of pain and hatred crashing upon them. "No!" she screamed, reaching for Max just as it lunged, teeth bared, eyes wild with fury. Now, in that heartbeat, as if both time and fear aligned, she felt the connection return, the memories they had forged together through laughter, joy, and love nourishing the raw, vulnerable action she undertook. Fingers grasped to fingers. Max's small but determined hand finally slipped into hers just as the figure lunged. "Hold on," she cried, sheer determination forcing her back, and with a violent pull, they clutched one another, ripping away from the shadows, diving forward as the tall figure screeched in fury, shadows unraveling in chaos. They stumbled out of the swirling mist, lungs gasping for the air of freedom as they crossed the threshold from darkness to light. With sheer power of will, they shot through the door. The shadows mourned, swirling behind them. The figure shrieked like a wounded animal, but they were beyond its grasp. "Mom!" Lily cried, eyes wide, filling with gleaming tears. "Max!" Sarah soothed, cradling both her children, their heartbeats mingling in a symphony of safety. "We're safe now." But were they truly free? The enormity of the decision washed over her, the very essence of Pine Hollow still lingering, grasping at the edges of reality. The laughter pulsed, but only for a moment. It faded with a mournful wail, disintegrating into whispers on the wind as dawn broke. Lily turned, her tiny voice breaking the silence. "What about them?" she asked, glancing back towards the looming shadows. "Let them have their shadows," Sarah whispered, holding her children close. "We'll make our own light." As they stepped away from the cursed wood of Pine Hollow, they began to hear the world beyond, the chirp of morning birds, the bounce of dew-laden grass. And behind them, the shadows fell silent, left to linger in a place undefined, hoping for a new soul to wander into its grasp. But with every step they took, rising with the breaking dawn, Sarah knew she had won. They were more than just survivors. They were a family, clothed in light. Remember this moment. It was hope, and hope could burn brighter than any shadow lurking in the darkness. Thank you for being part of this journey. If you enjoyed the adrenaline and the heart-racing twists of this tale, now is the time to make your voice echo. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories, each darker than this one. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow our community. Flood the comments section below with your reactions and theories about the end. What did you think? Did they truly escape Pine Hollow? Or does something still lurk in the shadows? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Remember, only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. This is the moment to show your support.